What is the difference between red foxes and gray foxes? You've probably seen a fox at some point, maybe darting across the road at night or staring at you from the edge of a field, like it's calculating your every move. Most people call it a fox and move on. But here's the thing, there's a good chance you weren't even sure which fox you were looking at. Was it a red fox? A gray fox? Does it even matter? It matters more than you'd think. These two animals look similar enough that people mix them up all the time. But under the surface, they're about as different as two cousins who grew up in completely different countries. Same family, very different lives. One of them can climb trees. And no, that's not a joke. One of them has been spreading across the planet for thousands of years, and the other has been quietly minding its own business in the same forest since the dinosaurs were still a recent memory. By the end of this video, you'll be able to tell them apart just by glancing at their tails, and you'll understand why these two foxes, despite living in the same neighborhood sometimes, have almost nothing in common when it comes to how they actually live. Two foxes, two completely different family trees. Before we even talk about color or size, there's something most people don't know about red foxes and gray foxes. They're not actually that closely related. They both belong to the family Canidae, which is the dog family, but beyond that, they split off into completely different branches a very long time ago. The red fox is Vulpes vulpes, and it belongs to the genus Vulpes, the true foxes. The gray fox is Erocion cinereoargenteus, and it belongs to the genus Erocion, which only has two living species. These two groups diverged from each other roughly 9 to 10 million years ago. So when you look at a red fox and at a gray fox standing next to each other, you're not looking at close relatives. You're looking at two animals that just happen to end up looking somewhat alike because they fill similar roles in similar environments. The gray fox is actually considered one of the oldest living canid species on the planet. Scientists estimate it has existed for at least 3.6 million years, essentially unchanged. The red fox, by comparison, is a newer and more adaptable design, a model that spread across the world and colonized environments that would have been inaccessible to the gray fox. Think of it this way. The gray fox is the original. The red fox is the aggressive new competitor that showed up and started taking real estate. How to tell them apart. Okay, let's talk looks. This is usually the first thing people want to know. And honestly, it's not as simple as the name suggests. Red foxes aren't always red, and gray foxes have quite a bit of reddish-brown on them too. So going purely by coat color is a trap. The red fox is the larger of the two. Adults typically weigh between 8 and 15 pounds, though some individuals in colder climates can push past that. They stand roughly 16 inches at the shoulder and measure about 3 feet from nose to the base of the tail. The tail itself adds another 14 to 16 inches. The body is lean and built for speed. Red foxes can reach speeds of around 30 miles per hour when they need to. The classic red fox looks exactly like you'd expect from the cartoons. Rust red fur across the back and sides, black legs that look like they're wearing stockings, white on the chest and belly, and a big bushy tail. But here's the trick. The tip of that tail is always white, regardless of what color variation the fox carries. You can get red foxes that are silver, black, or a mix called the cross fox. It doesn't matter. White tail tip. That's the giveaway. The gray fox is noticeably smaller. It weighs between 7 and 14 pounds on average, stands around 15 inches at the shoulder, and has a stockier, more compact build. The face is rounder, and the snout is shorter than the red fox. The coat is a salt and pepper gray across the back and face, with rusty red patches on the sides, neck, and legs. The belly is white, the muzzle is dark, and the tail has a distinctive black stripe running down the top that ends in a black tip, not white. That black tip tail is the easiest way to confirm a gray fox when you're not sure. So here's your cheat sheet. White tip on the tail means red fox. Black tip on the tail means gray fox. That alone will save you from getting it wrong 90% of the time. Where they live and why it matters. The red fox has the widest natural range of any wild carnivore in the world. It's native to Europe, Asia, North Africa, and North America, and it's been introduced to Australia where it's become a serious ecological problem. In North America alone, it shows up from the Arctic tundra all the way down into the southern United States. It has colonized cities, suburbs, farmland, forests, deserts, and everything in between. If there's food and a patch of ground to sleep on, a red fox will figure out how to live there. The gray fox has a much more specific home. It's found from southern Canada through the United States, Mexico, Central America, and into parts of South America, making it the only canid species native to both North and South America. But despite that range, the gray fox is picky. It strongly prefers dense forests, brushy areas, and woodland edges. It likes places with thick cover, access to water, and rocky outcrops. The more tangled and hidden the landscape, the better the gray fox likes it. In areas where both species overlap, which happens across a large portion of North America, they tend to sort themselves out by habitat. Red foxes are more likely to be in open fields, pasture land, and suburban backyards. Gray foxes tend to stick to the tree line. This isn't a hard rule. Gray foxes do show up near human settlements sometimes, but the general pattern holds. Red foxes don't have a permanent den outside of breeding season. They find shelter when the weather gets bad and otherwise just keep moving. Gray foxes are different. They maintain dens year-round, and they choose their den sites carefully. Hollow trees, logs, rocky crevices, and sometimes well up in a tree. Their dens are better hidden and more consistently used than those of red foxes. The one trick the red fox cannot do. This is the thing that surprises people every time. The gray fox can climb trees. Not just scramble up a low branch, it can actually scale vertical tree trunks using its front legs and semi-retractable claws. It can jump from branch to branch, travel through a canopy, and even sleep in trees. It has been documented resting more than 20 feet off the ground in hollow trees and even in old hawk nests. The gray fox is the only member of the dog family capable of true tree climbing. Every other canid you can think of, wolves, coyotes, red foxes, domestic dogs, none of them can do this. The gray fox manages it through a combination of rotating front feet, strong curved claws, and powerful hind legs that push it upward with remarkable efficiency. Why does it matter? Because it completely changes the gray fox's survival options. When a coyote shows up, and coyotes are the main predator of both fox species, the red fox has to outrun it or hide in a burrow. The gray fox can just go vertical. It disappears into the canopy like it's cheating. This climbing ability is also why gray foxes can access food sources that red foxes simply can't reach, including bird nests, fruits in elevated branches, and tree-dwelling squirrels. The red fox compensates with speed and intelligence. It's known for being cunning and adaptable, and it uses its open terrain speed advantage to stay ahead of threats. Different tools, different fox. What they eat and how they hunt. Both foxes are omnivores, meaning they'll eat almost anything that holds still long enough. Small mammals, birds, insects, eggs, fruit, berries, carrion, it all goes on the menu. Neither species is particularly fussy. Red foxes are classic opportunists. They eat what's available, and their diet shifts with the seasons and their location. In spring and summer, they load up on insects, earthworms, and fruit. In fall and winter, they shift towards small mammals like rabbits, voles, and mice. In urban areas, they'll raid garbage, eat pet food left outside, and make the most of whatever humans leave behind. Red foxes are well known for caching excess food by burying it in the ground and returning to it later. And studies have shown they're pretty good at relocating those hidden stashes. Gray foxes overlap heavily with red foxes in diet, but they show a stronger preference for rabbits when rabbits are available. They also eat more fruit than red foxes do, particularly in summer and early fall when berries and wild grapes are abundant. Their woodland habitat means they encounter different prey mixes, more squirrels, more wood thrushes, more forest floor insects. Both species use a classic hunting technique called mousing. They locate prey under snow or in tall grass by sound, and then pounce with a high arcing jump to pin the animal. If you've ever seen a fox throw itself into the air and dive nose first into a snowbank, that's what's happening. It looks absurd. It works extremely well. The two species do compete for food where their ranges overlap, but the competition seems to be offset by their slight habitat differences. Red foxes hunt more in open areas. Gray foxes hunt more in shrubby cover. They divide the landscape between them without a lot of direct conflict. Raising a family. How different can it be? Both species are monogamous, which already puts them ahead of a lot of animals in the commitment department. They form breeding pairs, and in both cases, the male helps raise the young. Red foxes breed between December and February depending on latitude. After a gestation period of 49 to 53 days, the female gives birth to a litter of between 1 and 13 pups, with 5 being the average. The pups are born blind and covered in dark brown or gray fur. The red comes in about a month later. The male brings food to the female during the pregnancy and stays involved in feeding the pups as they grow. By about 5 weeks, the pups start venturing outside the den, and by late summer, the family begins to break apart as the young foxes disperse to find their own territories. Gray foxes breed from January to March, with a gestation of 51 to 63 days. The litter sizes range from 1 to 6 pups, with 4 being typical. Both parents care for them actively. By about 12 weeks, the kits are weaned and start learning to hunt by following their parents. They have their full adult teeth by 4 months and can fend for themselves, but many stay with the family group into fall. One notable difference is that gray foxes are considered lifelong pair bonders. Red foxes are generally monogamous within a breeding season, but the pair bond is not always permanent. Gray foxes seem to stay together across multiple seasons more consistently. In the wild, red foxes typically live 3 to 5 years, though a few individuals reach 9 years or more. In captivity, they can live up to 14 years. Gray foxes have a similar wild lifespan of 6 to 8 years and up to 12 years in captivity. First-year mortality is high in both species. Life as a small predator in a world full of coyotes, great horned owls, and fast-moving vehicles isn't easy. The ancient fox versus the world traveler. Here's a bigger picture perspective that puts these two animals in context. The gray fox is ancient and specialized. It evolved in North and South America, stayed there, adapted to specific forest environments, and didn't venture out much. It's good at what it does, climbing trees, navigating dense woodland, surviving in brushy terrain, and it hasn't needed to change that formula for millions of years. The red fox went the other direction entirely. It evolved in Eurasia and spread everywhere. It crossed land bridges, colonized continents, adapted to conditions ranging from Arctic tundra to North African desert to London suburbs. It is one of the most successful carnivores on the planet by any measure: range, population size, or adaptability. The red fox thrives precisely because it doesn't specialize. It's a generalist in the truest sense of the word, and that flexibility has made it nearly unstoppable. In North America, red foxes have actually been expanding in recent decades, in part because coyotes have pushed them out of some traditional habitats, and in part because human development creates exactly the kind of edge habitat, half open, half wooded, that red foxes love. Gray foxes have held their ground in forested areas, but they're more sensitive to habitat loss and fragmentation. When forests get cleared, red foxes move in and gray foxes move out. There's also a competition dynamic worth mentioning. Where both species live in the same area, gray foxes tend to be more aggressive in direct encounters. They are reportedly less tolerant of red foxes in their territory than the other way around. Despite that, direct conflicts are rare, and the two species mostly avoid each other by using different parts of the landscape. So, which one is the better fox? That's a question with no right answer, but it's worth thinking about what each one represents. The red fox is the ultimate adapter. It's been measured, studied, hunted, and relocated across the globe for centuries, and it just keeps winning. It learned to live in cities before most predators had any idea cities were a thing. It's clever, fast, flexible, and genuinely difficult to get rid of once it's decided somewhere is worth living in. If the red fox were a person, it would be the one who moves to a new country, learns the language in 6 months, and somehow ends up running a successful business by year 2. The gray fox is the quiet expert. It's been doing exactly what it does since before humans existed, and it's very, very good at it. It climbs trees, it mates for life, it stays in the forest, keeps its head down, and raises its kits in carefully hidden dens. It doesn't need to take over the world because it's already found a world that suits it perfectly. Both of these animals are genuinely impressive once you understand what they're actually doing out there. They're not just a small orangish thing at the edge of your headlights. One of them is a living relic of ancient North America, practically unchanged since the Pliocene. The other one is one of the most successful predators in the history of the planet. So, next time you spot one, check the tail. White tip, you've got a world traveler. Black tip, you've got an ancient. Either way, you're looking at something worth a second look.